Yes, I have a lot of respect for Senator Feinstein, but she's missed 75% of votes this year.
We believe that a senator should be able to make their own judgments about when they're retiring and when they're not.
There's a battle right now within the Democratic Party over whether or not Senator Dianne Feinstein should retire early. So in this video, I'm going to show you several clips from several appearances over the weekend from sitting Democratic politicians on both sides of this issue. And really, it's sort of heavily weighed on one side, as you're going to see here. But there is one response that kind of surprised me, and I'll get to that near the end of this video, though maybe not really, considering some of the history there that I'll also show you. But first here, this is what has been going on for years. It's not just over Feinstein's recent health issues, which I'll get to before I show the first clip here, but it's also over her serious health issues around memory. So I believe Jane Mayer here in the New Yorker initially broke this story. Dianne Feinstein's missteps raise a painful age question among Senate Democrats. So this is back in December 2020. They go on, or Jane Mayer goes on to discuss how several Democrats off the record are discussing examples of when Feinstein just completely forgot what she was talking about, the positions she had, things that she said. So her problems with her memory have been going on for years. And this has only increased in reporting. So the New York Times here, I believe this is 2022, so about a year ago. As Feinstein declines, Democrats struggle to manage an open secret. Democrats have quietly accepted the California senator's memory issues as the status quo. Another report here, this is late last year. Colleagues worry Dianne Feinstein is now mentally unfit to serve, citing recent interactions. So I've covered a bit of this before. I'm not going to go, there's a lot of examples, but if you want some of that, you can look up these sources that I'll provide below the video under sources, or go look at my previous videos on Dianne Feinstein. But this is a more recent one. So Feinstein, as I posted here, forgot that she just announced that she's retiring. So this is to Christian Hall here, reporter writing, asked by reporters about her announcement to resign. Feinstein says, quote, "If I haven't made that decision, I haven't released anything." A staffer then told the senator that a statement had been released. Feinstein responded saying, "I didn't know they put it out." They announced her retirement, and Feinstein, claims that she didn't know. How would she not know that they released this statement about her retirement? So she forgot that she announced her own retirement in the statement. Just to show you how bad this is. Now, recently, Feinstein was hospitalized over shingles. She was more recently, I should say 7 days later, I believe, or maybe that day, was released. So she says, "Want to thank everyone. I'm recovering at home now while I continue receiving treatment." So this was over a month ago. Feinstein still has not returned to the Senate. And the reason why this is an issue, because you may be thinking, well, Democrats don't hold majorities anyways, at least in the House, so they can't really pass anything right now. Yes, except when it comes to judges. So since February, Feinstein has missed more than 50 votes. Her absence on the Judiciary Committee means that Democrats can only confirm judges who have some Republican support, because Democrats only have a one-seat majority on the panel. So let me get to Khanna here, who has really been pushing this issue to his credit, saying it's time for Feinstein to resign. We need to put the country ahead of personal loyalty. While she has had a lifetime of public service, it is obvious she can no longer fulfill her duties. Not speaking out undermines our credibility as elected representatives of the people. And I completely agree. So here he is over the weekend on Fox News Sunday discussing his position on this.
You've taken heat for saying that Senator Dianne Feinstein should resign after weeks of being out for medical care. You also responded to a tweet. Somebody was criticizing you about that, and you said it's just common sense, and added this: "There's no job I know of where you can just continue to not show up and people think that's perfectly fine. We live in a democracy. The people are the boss." Now, Senator Fetterman has been out longer than she has. Is your concern just about her, or would you say it also applies to him as well?
Well, only in Washington would you get criticized for saying something so obvious. I have a lot of respect for Senator Feinstein, but she's missed 75% of votes this year. She hasn't been showing up, and she has no intention. We don't know if she's even going to show up. She has no return date. In contrast, Senator Fetterman has said that he's going to show back up on April 17th. So it's one thing to take medical leave and come back. It's another thing where you're just not doing the job. The reality here is there's the sense, well, you need to have a deference to these senators who've served so long. How about a deference to the American people? How about an expectation that if you sign up to do one of these jobs, you show up? And I said out loud what people have been saying in private. And this is how the Beltway works. They don't like it when you call out someone who is in power. And that's why people are unlikely to do it.
And that last point that Khanna made there is going to become even more apparent as I get to some of the other reactions from other Democrats in a second here. But his point is, I think, well taken. Health leave is fine. In the example of Fetterman, who left over his issues with depression, he said when he was coming back, he's going to come back, I think today, actually. So he's coming back this month. He just joined the Senate. This isn't a long-term thing. He didn't announce he's retiring already like Feinstein did. Feinstein is retiring at the end of her term. So this would just be her leaving a bit earlier. This is a much different situation than some of the other examples that defenders of Feinstein have attempted to bring up. So let me get to Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, and her position on Feinstein.
You think it's time for her to step down?
Dianne Feinstein is an extraordinary senator, and she's been a role model and a mentor to me my entire career. I sit with her on the Intelligence Committee. She asks some of the most searing, pointed questions of anyone on that committee. Her legacy and her depth of experience is valuable. And we've had so many senators who have had illnesses, whether it's Mitch McConnell's illnesses or senators who have had strokes. These are issues that we're human, and we believe that a senator should be able to make their own judgments about when they're retiring and when they're not, and they all deserve a chance to get better and come back to work. Dianne will get better. She will come back to work, and she's already told Senator Schumer that he can replace her on the Judiciary Committee if it's urgent for these hearings for judges. She's a team player, and she's an extraordinary member of the Senate. It's her right. She's been voted by her state to be senator for 6 years. She has the right, in my opinion, to decide when she steps down.
All right, so the only argument there that's worth anything is that Feinstein was voted by people in her state to be senator. So you could say, I don't know, trying to force her out early is maybe trying to buck the will of the people. But if you are not capable of doing the job, I think it's a bit different, especially, again, when she has already announced that she is retiring. This would simply be leaving early to allow more work to get done, more judges at the very least to get pushed through. And yes, she's being replaced on the committee, so that may help in that scenario, but we're going to get to someone else later on who sort of gives a deadline for when Feinstein needs to decide what's going to happen, and it'll become clear what that vote is around in a bit here. But on the issue of, Gillibrand essentially is saying, oh, she's been solid. She's been a good senator. Okay, that she's not, but she's not. That doesn't address the fact that she's not in, that she has been gone for a while now. And on that point as well, there has been, as I said, a lot of reporting on this. So the article I showed you earlier from the New York Times, they write here, again, this is a year ago, so things have not gotten better. At 88, Feinstein sometimes struggles to recall the names of colleagues, frequently has little recollection of meetings or telephone conversations, and at times walks around in a state of befuddlement, including about why she is increasingly dogged by questions about whether she is fit to serve in the Senate representing the 40 million residents of California. And also, it is widely, though always privately, acknowledged that Ms. Feinstein suffers from acute short-term memory issues that on some days are ignorable, but on others raise concern about among those who interact with her. And there are, again, many examples in all these articles. I will link below the video under sources on YouTube. But let me get to the next person here. This is Tammy Baldwin, another senator, and her position on Feinstein.
There's been some calls for her to resign now. Where do you stand on this? Well, I certainly wish Senator Feinstein well, and am pleased that she has made the decision to have a fill-in on her seat on the Judiciary Committee. I think that is really an important, a responsible thing to do during her absence, because we have President Biden's nominees waiting for hearings and votes, and we want to keep that moving. But I wish her well and hope she returns to the Senate very soon.
Do you think these calls for her to resign are appropriate?
Look, it's up to Dianne Feinstein and her family to decide whether she wants to keep on serving. And she's had a remarkable record, and I respect that.
So Tammy Baldwin there, sort of at the same line as Gillibrand, but I think skirting the question a little more around whether or not Feinstein should be asked to retire. All these senators, they work directly with Feinstein. They have to know her mental situation. They have to know that she is not fit to be there. But they are in a position, as Khanna pointed out, where they would have to essentially buck the establishment. And maybe at the same time they worry, well, if they get up in the years, are they going to face the same, a similar push to get out? So at this point, maybe they don't want to make their voice heard too strongly around Feinstein and retirement because they don't want to face the same scrutiny when they get up in years as well. But if you're in a position, or if you're in the state where you simply can't do the job properly, look, this is a delicate situation. Some people are, offended by this idea, calling it ageist to try and push Feinstein out. You are, as a senator, you are a public servant. This is already a delicate situation. If this was, someone in some kind of company, and this person, is an executive, and maybe they've been there for a while, and now it's time for them to go, and they don't want to leave, even though they have issues with their memory. That already itself is sensitive, but that company can deal with that situation the way they want to deal with it. We are talking about someone who is in public service. If you cannot serve the public and you're retiring anyways, I just don't think there should be no debate here. I think it's very clear. Feinstein has been there for a long time. She's already retiring. I think it's time for her to retire early and, get on with things here. But this is going to be a sensitive topic for these senators who may be in a similar position again sometime, years in the future. But let me get to the one response here that kind of surprised me. And I'm saying kind of because normally this would surprise me because it's someone, Amy Klobuchar, who is not seen as anyone that usually pushes the envelope in any way. But based on some of the past that Klobuchar and Feinstein have had, it's maybe not as surprising. But let me show you Klobuchar's response to this.
Is her absence in such a closely divided Senate hurting you?
Well, I think she made the right decision to step off the Judiciary Committee. I serve on that committee, and we cannot advance judges or legislation with a missing person because of the close votes. So basically, in the next week or so, you're going to see Senator Schumer, probably sooner than later, putting forward a name, and then the Senate, as they've done in the past, can vote to put this person on unanimously. That's what happened when you had Bob Dole resigning to run for office.
But you don't think Republicans are going to try to block that?
I don't know. I sure hope not, because that is against the precedent of the Senate and how we've run things. But that's the first thing, so she did the right thing. As for the long term, many people have been out, as you know, for periods of time when they're sick, and they have come back. In this case, we are going to need her vote on the Senate floor eventually. We have things like the debt ceiling coming up. But I think what we need to do is take her at her word. She is recovering from shingles, and make sure she comes back. If this goes on month after month after month, then she's going to have to make a decision with her family and her friends about what her future holds. Because this isn't just about California. It's also about the nation. And we just can't, with this one vote margin, and expect every other person to be there every single time. So it's going to become an issue as the months go by. But I'm taking out her word that she's going to return. But right now she says she's going to return. Let's make sure that happens. And it sure better happen before the debt ceiling vote.
It sure better happen before the debt ceiling vote. Klobuchar putting a timeline on Feinstein here. This is encouraging to see someone like Klobuchar come out publicly and say, hey, Feinstein can do what she wants, but she has to figure it out by the debt ceiling vote because we need her vote there. So the reason why this, I guess, may not be as surprising as it would normally be is I covered this. This is a little over a year ago, actually. Here's a little interaction that Feinstein had with Klobuchar during a hearing about so this was policy around limiting the ability for large companies like tech companies like Meta, Facebook, and Google to sort of prop up their own products over others. This is really more of an Amazon issue. But let me play for you this little interaction here. So Feinstein is on the side of the big tech companies, and Klobuchar is on the side of the legislation that she's introducing.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask the senator a question? Are you implying, Senator Feinstein, that the U.S. government, that the administration is against this bill? You just said that federal agencies had concerns, and I would like to know if you have some knowledge that I do not know that the administration is against it, since they have made antitrust enforcement, as has the Justice Department, a major priority.
No, I do not know. What I said is I am told that federal agencies have concerns about these provisions.
Okay,
but
well,
this
that is a
committee
pretty
has
bold
not
statement.
had the benefit of their input.
That is a bold statement.
So,
Well, I'm sorry, Senator. It's what I think, and I thought we're able to say what I have been told that.
By who?
And you may not like it.
Well, no, I don't like it at all, because I think that it's not true.
And in fact, it's not true. Klobuchar is right. Feinstein is wrong. Whether or not Feinstein was lying here on behalf of big tech, again, Feinstein from California, so she's going to have more of an influence from big tech companies, or whether or not she just didn't know, forgot, thought the wrong thing. Regardless, they've had, that little battle in the past. I'm sure they've had others that we know less about. But Klobuchar knows. Tammy Baldwin knows. Gillibrand even knows. These are people that have worked closely with Feinstein for years. They know her state. I bet you it's likely that all of them at one point have leaked examples to the press that have been covered in the press, but their names aren't on it. Like, this is very clear that I think Feinstein should retire early. Again, she's retiring anyways, so retire early, let someone else fill that seat. And one of the so I didn't bring this up because it's too much video, but one of the other criticisms that Khanna was getting for this is that, well, he just wants Gavin Newsom to fill Feinstein's seat in the interim, which is what would happen before the next election. And Newsom claimed or vowed to appoint a black woman on as senator if he was in that position. And so the criticism of Khanna is that, well, because Khanna is backing Barbara Lee, a black woman, for Senate in California, then Khanna just wants Gavin Newsom to put Barbara Lee on. I would be shocked if Gavin Newsom chose Barbara Lee, considering Barbara Lee is the most left-wing candidate in the race right now in the primary. It's very likely Gavin Newsom would just pick, I don't know, someone else who's not even in the race to fill that seat for now. So I don't think that's an accurate criticism of Khanna, but whatever. We'll see where this all goes. I would actually be surprised if Feinstein did the right thing and stepped down early, but I'm very curious to see what Klobuchar and other Democrats, what they're going to say if Feinstein takes this all the way to the debt ceiling vote. And at that point, are they going to try something else to push her out of that position?